and it's buzzing everywhere, break the bias. We are breaking the bias. So if you haven't struck the pose yet, you're not too late. You can join the trend to break the bias. So we will try so hard to keep to our time today. It's gonna be an hour. It's gonna be just an hour, but I can guarantee you it's gonna be so fun. It's gonna be impactful, and we are all gonna take, a little quote or a little something with us home. So 8th March is our day. It's a day for every woman across the globe. It's our day to shine. And so this webinar, this event has been organized by Canada-Ghana Chamber of Commerce in partnership with Africa Skills Hub. My name is Kayla Geraldo from Africa Skills Hub. I'm the lead programs manager for Women of 8. So Women of 8 is basically a program or like a department just designed and dedicated for women empowered programs. So I'm so honored, so honored to be moderating this event today. As we all know, we are expecting Ms. Rosy Fynn to just show up in the middle of this event to give her, to share powerful experiences with us. So without wasting much time, I would like to just share something briefly with you all, and then we can move on. So International Women's Day, which is always on the 8th of March, is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. And the day also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I'm quickly gonna hand over to Edwina. So I'm gonna hand over to Ms. Edwina Atasono, who happens to be the Executive Secretary of the Canada-Ghana Chamber of Commerce, to just give us a little intro of what the chamber is about. When she's done, she would hand over to Linda, and then we'll keep the ball rolling. It's going to be an exciting event today. It's not going to be dull. It's not going to be boring. It's all about the woman empowerment. How do we bridge the gender gap, and how do we break the bias? So without talking further, I would like to introduce Edwina to take over. So Edwina, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Kayla. And hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be at this point in time. Like she said, I'm Edwina Atasono, and I'm the Executive Secretary for the Canada-Ghana Chamber of Commerce. And we are happy to have all of you come on board to join us, Women Inspiring Women, just for an hour, so that we can go back to our. I just want to speak briefly about the Canada-Ghana Chamber of Commerce. We are a network of over 75 Ghanaian and Canadian companies. And one of the key things that we offer our members is advocacy, business information, so you can take informed decisions, networking opportunities, and services that encourage and enhances bilateral trade between Ghana and Canada. Now, the Chamber strives to promote the interests of its members and conveys their views to decision makers in industry and government. And we create opportunities that will give our members value. Do not hesitate to visit us at our Laboni Secretariat or catch us up on all our social media platforms. Join us, you will be glad that you did. I want to welcome our council members who have joined. I have a male-dominated council membership, but I have some male council members who have joined us, and I'm really, really grateful. I would want to introduce to all of us a mother, a wife, the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Consolidated Shipping Agencies, but she is also the Treasurer of the Executive Council of the Canada-Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Mrs. Linda Vasnani. Mrs. Linda Vasnani is going to introduce our keynote guest speaker, give us a brief profile of who Rosy is and why she is here this afternoon to inspire us. Linda, please come in.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited today. Serena Williams said the success of every woman should be the inspiration to another. We should raise each other up. And so I welcome all of you to this amazing session. A special shout out to all the members of the Ghana-Canada Chamber of Commerce. I have the honor to introduce our keynote speaker today, Rosy Fynn. She's a distinguished change leader with a wealth of experience in international development, telecommunications, financial services, consulting, and insurance. She has over a decade's executive level experience in transforming organizations, not only in Africa, but in the United States and the Caribbean. Wow. She is currently the Ghana country head at the MasterCard Foundation, where she's overseeing the delivery of the foundation's Young Africa Work Strategy to enable over 3 million young Ghanaian women and men to access dignified and fulfilling work by 2030. Prior to joining the MasterCard Foundation, she was the CEO of Busy Internet, a leading 4G internet provider in Ghana, where she spearheaded the turnaround of the business with a focus on digital transformation, earning her the coveted award of Outstanding Telecommunications CEO of the Year at the 2021 Entrepreneurs and Corporate Executive Awards. She has held senior leadership positions in several organizations, including Busy Internet, Airtel, Surfline Communications, and Millicom, now Tigo. Rosy is very passionate about unlocking the potential of African youth and women. She mentors young people across several organizations, including Sponsors for Education Opportunity and Emerging Public Leaders. She's an advocate for women in STEM, and she was actually recognized as one of the top 30 women in STEM by the STEM Woman Project. Rosy holds an MBA from the Harvard Business School and a degree in computer science and mathematics from the Smith College in Massachusetts, USA. You will all agree with me that Rosy is a superwoman because she's also married with 3 children, and in her spare time, she runs marathons, plays basketball, golf, and even rides motorbikes. Wow. So, I mean, there's no doubt that Rosy Fynn is more than qualified to show us how to break the bias. Rosy, it's an honor to have you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Linda. And good afternoon to everyone. I am so happy to be with you all this afternoon, even if virtually. I really am looking forward to when we can have a lot of these conversations and sessions in person. I've missed that. But I want to take this opportunity to really say a big thank you to the Chamber for inviting me to be the keynote speaker today. I don't take it for granted, so very happy to be here. And I do hope that we'll have a great session together. I look forward to hearing from you also. I might know some things, but I can tell we have a great group of women here today and some men, as you mentioned, Linda. So it will be great to tap into all of your collective knowledge around how we can continue to break the bias and accelerate gender parity. So as Kayla had mentioned earlier, International Women's Day is commemorated on 8th March, annually to celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women across the globe. But I have a question for you. Is there anyone who can tell me without Googling, who can tell me when the first IWD was held? If you know, you can just, turn on your mic and shout it out, or you can put it in the chat. So what year did we hold the first International Women's Day event? Do we have any answers? Do we have any guesses? Not yet? Okay, well, I'll tell you. For those of you who were thinking 1911, you would be right. Does that sound surprising to some of you? I was actually surprised when I found out that we've been celebrating IWD for the last 111 years. That's a long time. And every year we have similar calls to action. And the gender gap is simply not closing as fast as we all want it to, right? So earlier this morning, I was on another platform and I shared statistics from the World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Index. And it's basically an annual report that tracks how well we're doing to bridge gender inequality based on measurements across 4 dimensions. And these dimensions are economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. Now, according to the 2021 report, it's going to take us 135.6 years. I like to mention the 0.6 because it's also relevant. 135.6 years to attain gender parity, or simply put, to bridge the gender gap. So we've been having IWD for 111 years, and still it's going to take over 100 years to close the gap. And this is despite all of the efforts we've made to date. And so it raises a couple of questions. Are we only paying lip service to gender parity? Are we actually doing enough to bridge the gender gap? And I think as we celebrate this day, this is something that I want you all to ponder on and let resonate, because we need to think about what we can do differently to accelerate the pace and to create gender equality in our organizations, in our communities, and in our country as a whole, right? So it's my hope that the little nuggets I will share today will provoke some thoughts, and that collectively we will take some action and hopefully be able to push for gender parity. Now, when I was discussing with Edwin a couple of weeks ago around what I would talk about today, she suggested that I share a bit of my story and my experience in the corporate world, talk a little bit about the lessons I've learned and how that has shaped my thoughts on how we can break the bias in our workplaces and the wider society. So I want to start with a brief overview of who I am. And hopefully this will be the parts that you did not hear in my bio. So I know Linda mentioned that my background is in STEM, but when I say my background is in STEM, I'm actually not talking about the fact that I studied computer science and mathematics in university. What happened was I actually grew up in a family that loved everything to do with science, technology, engineering, and math. So my dad is actually an engineer, and so is my elder brother. My mom also happens to be a dentist. So my love for STEM was influenced largely by immediate family and the environment I grew up in. Well, if you have older siblings like me who are all very ambitious, from an early age who serve as role models for you, it's going to really affect how you see life and how your worldview is perceived. My older siblings were doing really well academically. They were in student leadership. My brother was the school prefect at a Chimota school. So there's a certain level of pressure that you bear. You don't want to be the one who's left behind and the one who is seen as kind of like the black sheep, not doing enough. So all of this really influenced who I was. And so when I started college, I started off in a career in information technology. And this is a field that's still dominated by men. But you can say that I am a product of a whole village. What my upbringing did was to put STEM education at the center, but my experiences in the corporate world, in the fields that have dominated me, that have made me focus on gender parity today, all of this was brought into shape by the upbringing. So what I'd like to do now is to share 5 lessons very quickly that I have learned, which is based on my worldview of what we need to do to be able to really push this agenda on gender parity. So lesson number 1 for me is gender parity begins at home. As I mentioned, very strong knit family. I never felt that I was boxed in a gender role. My siblings and I, we did chores together. We played sports together. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a bit of a sports fan. I'm quite unconventional when it comes to sports. I played rugby at some point in my life, almost professionally in New York. There were no defined gender roles. And so my siblings and I really had the freedom to express ourselves at an early age. What this taught me was that my voice mattered, my opinions mattered, and that I do not have to restrict myself to gender roles, girls wear pink, boys wear blue, those kind of unconscious biases that are imposed on so many young women today. And one of the things I realized was that my female schoolmates who had similar experiences as me tended to be more vocal, more aspirational, and they all actually wanted to take up more leadership roles. So what's the moral of the story here? Gender parity begins way before young women get into the world of work. It begins way before they even start schooling, and they're socialized to pursue maybe one course or another. It's in school that some people will tell you that, science is too hard, and as a woman, you should look towards marketing and accounting. All of these conditionings happen at a much earlier stage in life, but the journey towards gender parity actually starts in the home. That's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2. contrary to popular belief, the rise of women is not about the fall of men. A lot of men sometimes feel like if as women are being given more leadership positions and more leadership roles, it means we'll be pulling back on what men can achieve. Throughout my working life, I've had the pleasure of working with some of the most brilliant and talented colleagues and bosses in Ghana and across the globe in the US, in the Caribbean, etc. And some were women who left an impression on me, great role models I look up to. I met with one of them today at a session earlier, Abena Osepuku, the MD at Absa Bank, Lucy Quist, who's currently a managing director at Morgan Stanley, someone who's really helped me and influenced my career projection as well. But I also worked and continue to work with some amazing male colleagues who equally challenged my thinking, coached and supported me, and were also great advocates of mine. So many of the great leaders that I have worked with, especially the female leaders, have similar stories. We are all products of progressive organizations that have deliberate inclusive policies in place to propel the growth and careers of both female and male leaders. And these organizations do not see the rise of women in senior leadership as diminishing the role of men. So as we evolve our thinking to this fact, we have to collectively create the space for women to rise to their full potential without impacting the leadership trajectory of male colleagues. So what's the crux of this matter? Gender parity in the workplace requires the support of all, especially our male colleagues and leaders. And as women grow, it does not mean that men will be left behind. That's lesson number 2. Lesson number 3, gender parity is more than a women's issue. It's also an economic issue. We know that globally, women represent close to 50% of the world's population. This is the case for Africa, and in Ghana specifically, this is the case as well. We're no different. So if we want to truly transform our development as a country and as a continent, it is a bit silly to leave half of our population behind. We will never achieve scale if we do that. And if you look at McKinsey, they had a report in 2019 called the Power of Parity Report. And there it was estimated that Africa could add 10% to the continent's GDP by 2025 if each country makes advances in women's equality. So pushing for gender parity, especially on the African continent, it's not a nice to have. It's not a slogan we should just throw around and be excited about and signs we do, and then it ends there. It's actually important for both economic and social implications. Lesson number 4. And I think this one is very clear already with all I've said before. Everyone has a role to play in promoting gender parity. And we must play our role very critically to promote gender parity in our homes, in our offices, our communities, the national level. It's important. In our homes, as I mentioned, we are socializing our children. In our workplaces, we are putting together policies that are going to have an impact on women. And these policies will affect issues such as promotion and remuneration, right? So I've seen many organizations that are pushing the boundaries in ensuring gender parity in the workplace. And this is from policies that ensure equal opportunity to policies that ensure equal pay. And here at the MasterCard Foundation, where I work, ensuring gender parity is embedded in our DNA, from our staffing to the kind of programs we have. As Linda alluded to, we have a new strategy, which we're calling the Young Africa Work Strategy, which seeks to enable 30 million young Africans, 70% of them who will be women, to access dignified and fulfilling work by 2030. So in Ghana, that number is 3 million, but that target of 70% still remains as well. So we see gender mainstreaming in our work as a driving force to promoting gender parity. I see that we have on here our lead in gender, Nafisa, who is so passionate about really help us to create equal opportunities for people to learn and prosper. So that's lesson number 4, the fact that everyone has a role to play. And at MasterCard, I think we are doing our best to play this role well, but there's always room for improvement, which is what we're going to be working on as well. To my last lesson, lesson number 5, mindset change and tangible actions are required to bridge the gap. So when I look back at the progress that has been made to date on gender issues, I will say that I'm positive about the future. Some of the long-held mindsets that have held us back and perpetuated gender inequality, they're gradually giving way to more progressive and inclusive conversations. I think some of the gender stereotypes that we have are being challenged at all levels. And we're seeing more diverse representation of women in leadership positions, even though I will say it's increasing at a slow pace, but at least we're seeing it happen. And I think many organizations are moving through different levels of gender awareness and putting in place policies to promote more inclusiveness. But despite the progress that's being made, there are many instances and examples of gender bias, which is both conscious and unconscious, that impacts women. And this could derail the gains that we've made to date. At the global level, we see low representation of women in high political offices. This is why one of the metrics in the World Economic Forum, which talks about political empowerment, is still lagging. It's actually one of the areas where we are the worst in. And we see this even more so in Africa. At the continental and country levels, there are also several communities where women cannot own land and have access to productive resources simply because of their gender. These are all issues that we must break. In many instances, women entrepreneurs are unable to access the required capital, and access to finance is rudimentary. It's basic to them being able to keep their businesses running, and yet they are not able to access this. So what does this tell us? More action is required to consolidate the gains made and to bridge the gap. So I want to conclude very quickly because I really want to leave more time for us to discuss and get into more of a conversation. But I'll say that promoting gender parity is a collective responsibility. We all have a role to play to advance the cause of women and work towards a more gender inclusive world. There's still a continuing need globally for more progressive mindset and inclusive behavior to be forged to ensure gender parity. And so when we talk about breaking the bias, again, this should not only be a slogan that we discard after today and create a new slogan next year. We must take action and push for gender parity in our organizations, in our communities, and the world at large. And I really believe that together, we can make a difference. Together, we can break the bias. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on how we can make this happen and really get to the point where we are closing the gender gap. As I mentioned, not in 135 years, but hopefully within our lifetime. Thank you very much. And back to you, Edwina. Or is it back to you, Linda or Kayla? Not sure.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rosie. It's back to Kayla. Kayla is moderating for us today. Kayla,
back to you, Kayla.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rosie. Thank you for sharing all that with us. I honestly could relate from beginning to end. And I feel like, I haven't done much, even hearing from you and testimonies around, I feel like there is still more to do. And instead of like throwing the slogan around, break bias, every year there is a symbol, last year is stand together, this year is, So I have definitely learned a lot. And I can relate. So for those of us who actually didn't hear the points, I'll just quickly run through for everyone, just in case you missed. So Rose's power pointers, like the top 5 she has for us. Number 1 is gender parity begins at home. And that is a very powerful one. That is a very powerful one, where we are not sidelined as women, to the kitchen, to errands, to other things, but being included. And what makes me so happy about you mentioning this is the fact that in your home, you had a voice and you were heard. I think if we practice more of this, definitely we can break the bias. We can definitely break the bias. Thank you so much for sharing that. Number 2, for those of us who missed, so number 2 is gender parity is not the fault of men. I totally agree with that. I mean, I basically feel like we as women have some key abilities and personalities that make us work faster at a different rate. And what we have is actually a complement,
Kayla, you've gone on mute.
So I feel like bias is the wall. When we are able to break down the bias, we can use that to create steps to achieve bigger things. And I definitely agree with you, the third point, that it is more than women, it's more than a women issue. So we need our uncles, our family, our friends to all come on board. We can't do this alone. At the last 2 years, the International Women's Day actually created a short video around the same thing, bias, like bias conversation pop. And 22 people were asked to solve a riddle. And this is very short. So a man was accompanying his son to an interview. And when they got to the interview, the son had a call. And his dad says, pick up the call. So the gentleman picked up the call, and the voice was from the CEO of the company. And the CEO says, good luck, son. I wish you all the best. And then the son looks to the father and then hangs up the call. And the 22 people on the call were asked, how is that possible? And a lot of people were drumming their heads trying to figure out, the dad is still with him. So how can someone on the phone say son? Every single one of them got it wrong, including myself. I could not figure it out. And then the person broke the answer. It was his mother. It was the mother that actually called. The mother happens to be the CEO of the trading company. You know, it's been time when, like, we picture CEO and the first thing that comes to your mind is a guy. You know, how many of us would think that when we call the phone to say we want to speak to a carpenter to come over, and then a woman appears, we are like, what are you doing here? You know, immediately that doesn't click, it's gonna be a woman. You know, we have to break that bias. We should be starting expecting women to break across all barriers. I'm taking too much time. I'm learning a lot. I'm just excited. So please, if anyone has any question, please feel free. It's supposed to be interactive. So kindly just, raise your hand. Oh, I have Peter. Peter is ready to say something. Okay, so Peter, kindly unmute yourself and quickly share with us what you've learned so far, any contributions or suggestions. We are so ready to hear you, please.
Thank you, and thanks to Rosy for the presentation. I realize that this is a perception, though. I mean, Rosy and the rest of the lovely women we have on the call today, that other women find it difficult to work with women in general or women bosses. I don't know how true that perception is, though, but there seems to be that going around. I just want to find out from Rosy, in her role, given the positions, the leadership positions she's taken, how she's tried to bring other women also to leadership positions, because she has gotten there. In getting there, I'm sure she may have overcome some challenges. And how do we bring other women who are aspiring to be future leaders, create that critical mass of women to take up leadership roles in society? That's one way of breaking the bias. So I just wanted to find out from her what her experience has been. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Rosy, over to you.
Thank you. And thank you, Peter, for the question. You know, there's been that saying in the past that women are our own worst enemies. And I am glad to say that I truly believe that is changing. My current boss is a woman and the most amazing person I could work with. My last 3 roles, I would say, I think 2 out of the 3 have been women. And these have just not been women who were interested only in the work I could do at the office, but were interested in me as a human being and were responsible for pulling me up. I would say that over the last maybe 4 jobs that I've had 3 kids at those locations, right, at those companies. And you would think that that would be the kind of thing that would hold me back, because it has in reality held a lot of women back. But these bosses were aware of the situation and were very, very instrumental in helping me be able to continue to provide good quality work, but also be able to, take time off, take care of my kids, and be able to sort of have a good balance between family life and work life. So it is possible, but it really does take, having a boss who who is interested and invested in your career and who is willing to be seen as sort of like a mentor. So when you ask how I am doing that and I am pulling up women, it's sort of similar to this, which is basically the fact that I continue to mentor women. I continue to take a vested interest in the lives of the people who are reporting to me and the people who are in the company with me. It's really not just about what they can produce between 9 to 5, but what are the other support systems that I can, provide to make sure that they can be as efficient as possible and balance their lives, home, work, more efficiently. And one of the big learnings that for me, I share a lot with the women that I work with is the fact that do not try to be a superwoman. Do not try to do it all on your own. Ask for help when you need it. And surround yourself with people who can help bring you up and push you forward. For me, I go to my mom when I need help to have someone, take care of my kids as needed. So she's an anchor for me who supports me. I'm not afraid to go to my boss and say, I need that time off. I need, a few days just to sort of collect my thoughts. Sometimes we feel like because we're women, we need to push and do it all. And it's true. Sometimes the standards are a little higher for us, but we also have to realize when that will result in us burning out and actually having to get to a point where we exit the company or are no longer efficient at the job we're doing. So that balance, I think, is very important and really asking for help. So providing, guidance and mentorship to the young women that are coming up today is something that is very, very important to me. Sharing my story, really being able to sort of put myself out there, because we are a function of the people we see. The reason I'm here today is because I believed it was possible because I saw other people who are taking senior leadership roles and were doing well. So I like to sort of put myself out there as well so that I can hopefully be someone who can inspire, the new generation to know that it is possible. It is possible to step up and balance, family life and a career, and just really help women to realize their full potential. Thank you. I think we have a second question from Abdul. Maybe we can just go straight to Abdul.
Yes, we do. Yeah. We do. I think that was Abdul. Abdul has his hand raised, so just go straight to Abdul. Abdul, kindly unmute and share with us, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I happened to meet Rosy at the Israel ambassador when he came to Ghana recently. I'm the head of sales and marketing at the Business and Financial Times. And I must say that I happened to live with my mom when I was growing up, and all my knowledge and education was solely by my mother. When I was growing up, I saw my mother being the one taking care of us, our two boys. And then we grew up to even master's level. Mother was the one who paid the fees for us. And my mother was a bilingual secretary and a businesswoman at the same time. And I didn't have any male role model than my mother. And she took me to wherever place I am, and whatever place I've been. When I appear in the place, people say, "You are looking good." And I tell them, I owe all this to my mother, because she wanted to ensure that you get the best out of yourself. And as you speak, I make sure that the time that she spent her days on earth, I ensure that I repay her back by also being a good son to her. And she was a great model in terms of my educational career, in terms of my professional career. She was a one. I couldn't see any man who was so much educated and who was so much, has integrity in terms of a rule of work. So it has affected my life as a person. And if you come to my company as we speak, we have about my sales and marketing department at the head office. We have about 11 people. And I must say that it's only 3 of us who are male, the rest are female. And then they are doing so well. And we have a team leader who's a female. So you can imagine that when women are given opportunity to do whatever thing they find themselves doing, they do it best. And they do it best. So I want to ask Chris, how do you call it, Rosy? What would you like to do as a person, as you have whatever place you've gotten to now? What will you do to be able to help these young ladies who think that they cannot make it? And even when you go to I'm running another 10 master's degree now, and I have only 3 female in my class. And women, most of the times, don't want to take up some role or do something because they feel like they cannot get there. And I did my chemistry first degree, and we had only 2 female in the chemistry class. And you can imagine, why had no female not come to this point? And they need women like you who can encourage them. That's why I find myself here. I want to see what ladies are doing, what best can I do in my capacity as a head of sales and marketing to support women to also go far in terms of their field of work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdul. That was a lot. That was a lot of sharing, and thank you for the impact. Like you sharing the impact means a lot. You know, it keeps on drumming the idea that we complement, you know, the men in the society where your mom had to take on the role. So thank you for sharing that with us. She indeed, she was breaking the bias in her own way. Yes. I saw Alex's hand up, Alex Norte. But before Alex comes, I would like Rosy to address Abdul's question.
Sure. Well, look, before I jump into that, let's just put our hands together for all of the mothers out there, for the hard work they do, a lot of which they don't get complimented for, they don't get seen, they don't get paid for. And yet, if you were going to get, you know, a help, a cook, and all of those roles solved, you would be paying a lot of money, right? So a big shout out to all the mothers out there, including myself. I mean, we have to learn to, you know, clap for ourselves once in a while as well. It's not an easy role. And I think, Abdullah, I addressed your question a little bit in my when I responded to Peter's question around how we can, you know, get more people. I talked about, you know, the mentorship and serving as a role model, but I think I can touch a little bit more on the work that the MasterCard Foundation is doing, because I think for me, this is the reason why I love the telecoms industry and came into this space. And more specifically for an organization like the MasterCard Foundation, that is not afraid and is bold to step up and say that all of the investments I am making, all of the effort I am putting out there, I want 70% of that to go towards women. That's not an easy thing to do. And sometimes you look at some of the programs we're thinking of, and it would really just be easier if we said young people as a whole, because there are some areas where young women are just not there. And to really get them to benefit and to participate, we have to go the extra mile. Well, that's actually what we want to do, to push the gamut and go the extra mile to reach those young, vulnerable women who are not easily accessible, who are in rural areas, who are in far off areas, who are someplace where they are not allowed to come out and, you know, mix with society, who are not given the platform. Those are the women we want to find, because you'll be surprised if we were to give them the platform, if we were to give them the training and education, the capacity building and skills development, the technical tools, you would be surprised by what they can do. They can transform not just themselves, but the entire communities, the entire nation. This is the power of women. And I think it's so important for us as a foundation and as individuals to really continue to look for those opportunities. So Abdullah, I applaud you as well, because you're here today. And as you're saying, you're always looking for those channels to really put women out there. But really that is the core of the work we do. And this is really the impact that we're trying to have. And it's not about, you know, women who can reach us on digital tools, etc. We're going into, you know, the areas that are hard to get to be able to provide services and programs to these women that will benefit them. So I think we are on that journey. Again, we could always do more. Open to more ideas from the audience for how the MasterCard Foundation can even push a little bit more and stretch the gamut to reach more vulnerable people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosy. Yeah, Alex can go on. And please, to anyone else on the call, if you have questions, please feel free and share that in the chat. I would gladly read that for you if you don't want your voice to be heard, like, or you're in a meeting and you're still enjoying the entire event. Like, I wouldn't mind reading that at all. This is definitely something that, you know, a lot of us would want to take home. So Alex, kindly unmute and share with us, and on standby.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you can all hear me loud and clear.
Yes, Alex, we can hear you.
Please. Yes, please, okay. We can hear you.
No, I'm very honored to enjoy such a day as the Women's International Day, and I'm happy it's being celebrated all over the world. I have memories of my mother growing up in England, seeing my mother having to deal with issues of working and going out and walking in the snow, having to go out to meet her, to hold her hand, to help her walk across the icy snow, and go to the shops with her. after she's had a hard day at work and have to come home and look after 3 boys, all on her own, because my father was in another part of England working. So I look back and I see a lot of women growing up in UK. A lot of women are single mothers. We have a lot of single Black mothers, and unfortunately, they have to pick everything up, educate the boys, educate the girls, and do whatever they have to do in order to make a success of these kids. So I see women having to do a lot of these things, having to have a 9 to 5, having to take care of the kids at the same time, and having to put food on the table. So that's the sort of society what I've seen. And also what I've seen here in Africa as well is that now women are fighting to get positions. Women are now being given more role at the workplace. They're being selected more for important roles at the workplace. And they're not being overlooked as they were 20, 30 years ago. So I see that women are playing a dominant role nowadays. So I really commend it, and I look forward really for that to happen more. Even recently, I was doing my LLB, and in my class, it was mainly female students. So a lot of women now are really gunning for it. They're going out there. They're very ambitious. They're not holding back, and I really support it fully. And I support this forum, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for sharing that. And you know, the topic is so broad. I mean, break the bias, and breaking the bias happens on different levels. So I just want to find out from Rosy quick before, I think there's a question in the chat. Okay, by perfect. Okay, so I'd like to read that first, and then I will come in and ask my questions later. So the question is, it's actually a suggestion. So she's saying, Rosy, you are such an inspiration. I believe together we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all break the bias. Thank you so much for sharing, Perfect. That's a powerful one. So, okay, I think Edwina, the floor is open for you. So you can unmute and share with us, please.
Right, Kayla, thank you so much. And thank you, Rosy, for such a lovely talk. I just want to formally make the mention here that Mr. Alex Norty, who just gave us a thumbs up, is the president of the Canada-Ghana Chamber of Commerce. He joined in a bit late, came in a bit late. I'm glad that he joined. I just thought we should acknowledge him. And he's been a great boss and leader for the chamber. As ours is a male-dominated chamber with just myself and Linda on council. But he's a great support. And I think that at such a forum, we actually make it known and show our appreciation to him for that as well. Thank you.
Oh, and I will say, Alex, our regards to your mom raising 3 boys. I have 2 boys, and the wahala I go through, big thumbs up to her.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Edwina. Thank you so much, Mr. Norty. Thank you so much. So, okay, so I want to go straight to it. Breaking the bias happens on different levels. So I just want to find out quickly from Rosy. So how do we break bias? I know in the home, your parents actually heard your voice. You know, you weren't shut down. You were given the opportunity to express yourself and feel included. So I want to find out what other practical ways can we instill in our schools. The only thing I remember way back in primary school was me playing the school drums. You know, initially it was dominated by the guys. I mean, you have to play the drums and then you are the person like on top, you know. But as a girl, I was so intrigued by it, like, come on, I can do this. And I was encouraged by my other female colleagues and my male teachers And I was given the opportunity and I played a school drum. And I was so empowered, but I felt like I could do more. That energy, that encouragement made me feel like I could do anything else. In fact, I could teach even karate, which is very funny. So I want to find out what other practical ways can we instill in our schools, especially at that lower level, to build up that mindset in our girl child that, it's possible to do this.
Kayla, that is such an important question. I'll tell you a story. So my kids are quite young. My son is 8 years old now, but when he was 5 and my daughter was about 2 or 3, he comes home one day and he says, well, what he knows now, I don't know how he got this, was that girls wear pink and boys wear blue, right? And first of all, I was completely shocked because it's not how we sort of bring them up. It wasn't something that had ever been mentioned at home. This is something that he probably picked up from school. But what I was very impressed about was that my 3-year-old daughter at this point said, well, I like blue and that's it, and so be it. And how I reinforced that was to tell her, look, you can like any color you want. The day you like pink, it's fine. The day you like blue, that's great. It doesn't matter. We don't have these biases. But it took, me by surprise, because at a very early age in school, these are 5 and 3-year-olds, this conditioning is happening. So if we don't address it at that level, in the primary preparatory school level, the biases and the opinions are formed, and it takes a much more difficult time, a harder time for us to break it when kids are a lot older, when they've already become sensitized in these buckets. So I think, to be practical about breaking these things, it starts from the content which we're teaching our kids. A lot of the time, when you look at the books of young people, and they're already perpetuating these ideologies around the roles that men need to play and the roles that women need to play, the colors they should like, how they should look, how they should dress. A woman is always the gentle lady, a man is always, or a boy is always represented as the more aggressive one. And so even if you have a child who is more outgoing, a little bit aggressive and speaks out, and she's female, all of a sudden she's feeling like she's not, expressing herself the right way, and thinks she needs to be a little bit more calm and pull back a little bit. And this is all happening when they haven't even turned 10 years old. So at the school level, it starts with the content that we're teaching. And that's not easy to do. There's a lot of this cultural indoctrination that has come into play for our young kids, where we put them in these buckets. I think maybe I was lucky to grow up in an environment where that was not the case, but for a lot of people, this is not the norm. This is the norm. So it starts, again, like I mentioned, from home, but in school, really having specific access to content that changes this. It's not going to happen overnight, because teachers have taught a certain way for a very long time. It's how they know. So it starts also with indoctrinating these teachers, a lot of these carers of our young ones, to start thinking about things a different way, to start, to stop putting boys in a particular box and girls in a particular box, and making girls believe in school that they need to act a certain way. A lot of the time, if a girl is a little bit of a tomboy in school, and I was, and I can tell you how uncomfortable it felt for the longest time, because I didn't like to wear skirts. I like to wear shorts and jeans. I was always running around. I was always playing with the boys. I was doing somersaults, etc., with them. And even from a teacher's perspective, they made it feel like it wasn't the right way to behave. And as a lady or as a girl, these were the things I was supposed to do. But at least I had that conditioning at home that helped. And then I guess something that I was lucky about also was that I went to a university or a college that was all women's. We weren't bogged down by, wanting to look pretty and feel a certain way for the men in the school. It was all about a whole bunch of women who were there just to get an education and do things however they wanted. So I think that also helped me as well. So overall, I think a lot of the conditioning and cultural biases that exist is what we need to break. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be overnight, but it starts at a very young age with our school systems, really getting women to understand that their position in life is wherever they want to be. They don't have a particular box they need to sit in. And the same for men. If you're a man and you want to do ballet, that's fine. If that's what your heart tells you, that's what you want to do, right? But some schools will actually say the boys there can't do ballet, but you have men in, you know, the US, etc., in Russia, etc., who are making tons of money by being ballet dancers. This is what they do, and it doesn't make them any less masculine, any less of men, right? So this indoctrination is, I think, the first thing that we need to break, and conditioning our teachers to position, you know, our young ones in a way where they don't feel like they need to fit in a particular box. Back to you, Kyla.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That was really powerful. Edwina has her hand raised, so Edwina, you have the floor, please.
Yeah, I just want to support what Rosy has just shared regarding boys wearing or boys having blue as a color. That happened just about a month ago when I dropped my little girl off at school, and an uncle had brought a niece to school, and she was just crying, screaming and shouting, and I was told and I asked, what is going on? Why are you crying? You don't want to come to school? And then she said no. Her problem was that she had been given a blue mask, and if she dares enter the school with the blue mask, the entire class will make fun of her. So at that point in time, she was requesting that the uncle should buy her a pink mask. I just want to say this to reiterate the fact that it is more deep, it's deep-seated than we seem to think it is. And I can assure you, I actually had to walk to the bookstore to get a pink mask for the girl before she went to school. So I really agree with Rosy in the sense that we need to break this bias, and we need to get our kids to understand that it doesn't matter what color. I mean, your color is not associated with your gender. We need to start from home. Now, if we leave everything for our teachers, it's going to be a big issue. So right from home, as Rosy's first point was, gender parity starts from the home. Let's start conscientizing our girls and our boys that there is nothing like blue for boys and pink for girls, so that they can feel free and express themselves wherever they are. So I just wanted to say this to buttress what Rosy was sharing with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Edwina. I can see a lot of people are really passionate about like breaking the bias. You know, this pink and blue thing, I don't think it will die out anytime soon. But I mean, as long as we keep, drumming it in all our ears, I think that we will definitely get somewhere. We have another message in the chat. I'll quickly like to read that, and we move on. So this is from Nafisa to Yusuf. And it says, socialization is indeed key in breaking the bias and also determining whether we end up with an inclusive society or not. But then again, it would seem that that burden may be on women, especially socialization, yes, at the household level, because of the nurturing roles and the seeming gendered roles they play. So we definitely need all hands on deck, and I think Rosy has said it all. Thank you so much, Nafitu, for sharing that. Thank you so much. It means that people are actually listening and taking so much from what this webinar has. I mean, this is Break the Bias, Women Inspiring Women. If you have any stories, if you have, any contributions that is going to empower all of us, I'll be so glad to hear that. I've heard a lot of the stories from Rosy, of which I'm glad she shared so far. So let me ask another question, just to buy time for the rest who want to come on later with their questions in the chat. So I want to find out.
Linda's hand is up. I don't know if that's a hand from before or if she wanted to.
I mean, my hand has been up for quite a while.
Sorry, Linda, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I would like to take the conversation to another direction.
Sure.
Based on my personal experience. I mean, I've been in corporate leadership role for almost 20-something years. And breaking the bias is a mindset change, even from the women themselves.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is that, I mean, over the years, there have been times when I've tried to treat the men and the women the same way. And the women actually get offended because maybe I appraise them a wrong way and like, who is she to give me orders? But the thing is that it's very important for women to know that if they're going to be treated the same way as the men, then they should be able to have the mindset that if you have a woman boss, it's very important that some of the criticisms that come out is just to make you better. Because I find that the men take the criticisms better than the women. And I mean, there are lots of women in my organization. And for those who've actually taken some of my advice in good faith have grown. And they've grown, and some of them are growing into management positions. So I just wanted to advise some of our women that breaking the bias is not only for men, but it's a mindset that needs to change for us, the women, as well. The other thing I would like to say is also that we don't do a lot for women after they retire, because there are so many women out there who have a wealth of experience, and they can help the younger ones if we actually help some of these women who retire to be mentors. But you don't get a lot of them, possibly because they don't get those opportunities to work as consultants and all that. So that's another side of, you know, the coin of breaking the bias that I wanted to bring to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you so much. So our time is almost up, but I would like Rosy to touch on just one more thing. So we've tackled how to break the bias in our homes, in our schools. So I just want to find out, how can we break the bias in our workplace, and how can government also play a role in helping to break the bias?
Sure, I'll try. And those are huge questions. I think those two questions alone can be a full session on themselves. But in our workplace, it's really, a lot of the time, I think Linda actually alludes to it. One, it's the women also being able to put themselves out there, right, a little bit more. There are some roles in my career that I got not because somebody was necessarily thinking about me or picked me up for it, but because I stepped up and said, look, I think I can do this. And the opportunity was given to me. A lot of the time in the workplace, you find out that men are a lot more vocal and a lot more aggressive about seeking senior positions or going for leadership roles that open up more so than women. There was a statistics that show that if there was, for example, a job opening, most women will look at the job opening and make sure that they qualify for every single one of the requirements. 10 years experience you have to take, have worked internationally, you have to take, they will take everything. If it's not 100%, women won't apply because they'll say we are not ready for it. Men, on the other hand, 2 out of 5 is enough. They're ready to go and apply and say, hey, we'll just put ourselves out there, because at some point you have to learn. And that's how a lot of the senior roles, you'll see that men, a lot more men do apply for it, and they end up getting the opportunity just because we're a lot more timid, and we sometimes wish we're 100% qualified. If you're 100% qualified for that role, then you're basically ready for the next role, right? Why are you going for a job you're fully qualified for? What are you going to learn and gain from it? You're only going to be contributing. So I think it starts from that mindset change that Linda has alluded to as well. The second thing is that in the workplace, there's also got to be more policies that will make sure that women are seen and heard in areas of hiring, in areas of promotion, and then when it comes to pay. And some of these are policies that have to be set in stone at the organizations. So today we still have a lot of incidents where women are paid less than men for exactly almost the same job, right? For no apparent reason, the woman is working just as hard in a similar role to a man, but the man earns more. And part of it, you would say, is because the man went to negotiate better. That's sometimes something that happens. Our negotiation skills, maybe that needs to improve a little bit. But also from the company's perspective, you need to have policies and rules in play so that when people are doing the same job, they're compensated the same way. And these are the types of things that lead in the long run to women much later in their lives falling into poverty, right? Because they don't earn as much as men, they don't get as big a pension as the men who are doing the same job. And later on down the line, you realize that, you know, they are unable to take care of themselves as well as the men are. And yet they were just as hardworking, et cetera, right? So those policies are important. And this comes in play, as I mentioned, for when you're hiring, when you're promoting, and then on the pay level as well. So that's it on the the job perspective. I mean, it's a really big conversation and something that, you know, would be great to go into a lot deeper. When it comes to, you know, at the national level, it's really more about more inclusive policies that will really help achieve systemic change. I think that's the big thing. As I mentioned earlier, you know, there are rules that exist that say, and it's not necessarily official rules, but if as a woman I wanted to own land, I have to be led by a man, and a man has to front this. And this is happening today. This is happening in our communities. And these are the things that result in women not being as empowered as men are economically, right? So there should be clear guidelines and rules. And I'm happy to say that we are actually at the MasterCard Foundation doing research around these very specific land issues to see how we can, maybe from a more policy-oriented perspective, make some changes and have an influence in this space. There's the cultural piece, right? Which is a lot harder to deal with because it's people's indoctrinations. You have to talk to the chiefs and you have to go all the way down. But even that we won't ignore, because all of these issues together are the reasons why gender parity exists today. So even though it's still a very difficult conversation, it's something that we still need to tackle. So on the policy level, yes, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there, and which we're looking at doing. I think a lot of other organizations also are looking to push labor laws, etc. But again, in really affecting the mindsets of our cultural leaders, our chiefs, etc., that's a big part of the work that needs to be done as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I have a few comments in the chat that I'd like to briefly read. So from Abna, I think Abna was agreeing to your earlier points on everyone being included, I think. And she's saying that there's a lot more to be done. Thank you, Abna, for putting that in the chat. And then Fiona also says, agreed, Rosy, policies need to be placed fairly in organizations. Definitely agree with you on that, Fiona. And we also have Barry. So Barry says, here are some actions teachers and all can take to help close the gender gap from the children's tender age. Invite female professionals to visit your class or online webinar with students. Oh, that's a great idea. Inspire students with videos and posters featuring female role models. Wow, wonderful. Find and share articles about women and students who are pursuing the same careers. This would help change their mindsets and encourage the girls and break away from the fear of the cycle. Wow, Barry, that is powerful. That is definitely powerful. And we have one from Veronica as well. She's saying, I do agree with Linda on the issue of the need to have more women mentors for the young women who want to, go into leadership roles. So yeah, I think basically that's all. Barry is still agreeing with everything else that Rosy has mentioned. Oh, wow, that was packed, but there's a lot to take home as well. So thank you everyone for joining this event. It was the Break the Bias, Women Inspiring Women. And I am really grateful to have moderated this session. Thank you so much, Rosy. Thank you. I can't thank you enough.
Please, can you allow me to ask one simple question?
Abdul, is that Abdul?
Yes, please.
Okay, Abdul. Okay, sure.
A quick one. I, for instance, my wife is a fashion designer, and then I always wear who made this for you, and I tell it as a woman who made it, and people are always very surprised as in what. And even my secondary school year group, I also ensure that we had a
Oh, Abdul, did we lose you? Oh, sorry. Technology. So thank you so much, everyone. I mean, I'm grateful that you joined this call. This was Women Inspiring Women. Thank you for sharing all your messages with us as well. I would like to hand over to Edwina to give us the closing remarks. But before I do that, let me quickly run over what we did, the 5 lessons from Rosy. So number 1, gender parity begins at home. 2, gender parity is not the fault of men. Gender parity is more than women issues. And then everyone has a role to play, as well as having the mindset to change that. So happy International Women's Day to every woman on this platform. Today is our day. Strike the post it on social media, and join the drive. So, and if you all don't mind, I would like us to turn on our cameras, strike the pose, take a very nice picture, and show the world that indeed we are all advocates in breaking the bias. So if you don't mind, we can do that in just like 30 seconds. So can we all turn our mics on? If you're okay.
Okay, so before we do that, I just want to briefly acknowledge council members who joined in. And I also want to thank all of you for participating, for your contributions. It's made the program or the event a memorable one. And I trust that, like Rosy said, we're not going to leave here forgetting about what we need to do to break the bias, but we are going to start right from this very second, implementing things that we have, or knowledge and skills that we have acquired through this webinar to start making a change. Thank you, Rosy, for inspiring us. This has been a Women Inspiring Women affair, and I think that it has gone pretty well. So like Kayla said, can we please have our videos on? We want to do the break the bias symbol and take a screenshot, okay? So can we see everybody, please? Adwa, can we see everybody? Great stuff. Have I missed anybody? No. Okay, so on the count of 3, the screenshot will be taken. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. So we'll probably see you on another platform. Bye, everyone.
Bye.